Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. When you use Angie for your home projects, you know all your jobs will be done well. Roof repair? Done well. Kitchen sink install? Done well. Deck upgrades? Done well. Electrical upgrade? Done well. Angie's been connecting homeowners with skilled pros for nearly 30 years, so we know the difference between done and done well. Hire high-quality, certified pros at Angie.com.
They say opposites attract. That's why the Sleep Number Smart Bed is the best bed for couples. You can each choose what's right for you whenever you like. You like a bed that feels firm but they want soft? Sleep Number does that. You want to sleep cooler while they like to feel warm? Sleep Number does that too. You have to feel it to believe it. Find the bed that's for both of you, only at a Sleep Number store. Sleep better together. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in store. And now, Sleep Number Smart Beds starting at $999. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
Hey, I got a picture of your cats having sex. They're going to have more cats around here. You need to get them fixed. Then the next thing, cats were ending up dead, and he was putting them on my porch. Hey, this cat is dead, put it on my porch. And I'm like, this guy is really creepy.
This is the plaintiff, Kimmy Jo Robinson Russell. She claims she was forced to put up a fence because her creepy neighbor, the defendant, would take pictures of her kids in their bathing suits. He would also spray them with a hose, and due to his outrageous behavior, he should be forced to pay her half the cost of the privacy fence in the amount of $5,000. That's what she's suing him for. This is the defendant, Charles Hadley. He says everything was fine with his neighbor until she got 2 cats that weren't fixed. And now there are cats all over the place and he's highly allergic. The cats come into his yard and have even snuck into his house. He didn't take pictures of the plaintiff's overweight, lethargic kids in their swimsuits. He was taking pictures of the raw sewage leaking into his yard, so he had proof for the authorities. Oh, or for a fence she chose to erect. No way. He's accused of being a nasty neighbor.
All parties, please raise your right hand.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Milian in our forum, the People's Court.
People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian is now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Russell, you are suing your neighbor, Mr. Hadley, for $5,000, half the cost of a fence that you put up that you say you wouldn't have had to put up if it weren't for how creepy he is. Okay, tell me what's going on.
Okay, I've lived in my home for 20 years. And Mr. Hadley, I believe, moved there after my neighbor passed away maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Our initial interaction was him telling me that he don't deal with his neighbors, and he's going to put up a 6-foot brick fence in the front and an 8-foot brick fence in the back. And I was like, okay, well, he's not going to be friendly, so I'm not going to deal with that. Maybe a month or 2 later, he calls me and he's like, hey, I seen a white girl in your backyard, coming out of your backyard. I took a picture. And I said, why are you taking pictures over here? You know what I'm saying? Then he said, are these your cats? And most of the cats in the neighborhood are like neighborhood
Cats?
Cats.
Okay.
Or neighborhood cats. And the next thing I know, he was telling me, hey, I got a picture of your cats having sex. They're going to have more cats around here. You need to get them fixed. Then the next thing, cats were ending up dead, and he was putting them on my porch. Hey, this cat is dead, and put it on my porch. And I'm like, this guy is really creepy. My grandkids come over my house all the time, and they're in the yard playing. he wants to water his trees as soon as they come there. He wants to water his trees, not down at the roots, but at the top. So he's wetting the kids in the yard, and they're telling me, he's wetting us, he's wetting us. I said, can you please stop wetting us? He said that he could do what he wants to. He owns his property, and pretty much kind of belittling me because I'm a renter. He owns his property. And then it just kept increasing. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna put a fence up to keep him from over here. He's constantly taking pictures. His whole phone should be full of pictures.
What is he taking pictures of?
The kids in the yard, when they're in their swimsuits, all the time. He's just taking pictures of everything.
Okay, I'm imagining that maybe there are words being said back and forth as well. Was there a problem between you two regarding something on your property?
He had a problem with the septic tank over flooding in my backyard. He did have I had a problem with that, okay?
Right.
But what the problem was, we doing COVID, you know, in the backlash of COVID, and the people that come out to service it, they would pump the thing. They thought that's all they needed was to be pumped. So they did that a couple of times, and then they said, oh no, the lines is messed up. So now we gotta wait for the city to come out to inspect, to reroute the lines in the backyard. So it was a waiting process for that situation to be going on.
He filed a complaint against you for that, right?
Yes.
Okay, with who? With the city?
Yes. Which actually helped me out because they got out there quicker. He was ignoring them, so annoying them so much that they said, hey, let's hurry up and get out of here and get this done. So it helped me a whole lot. Thank you.
Okay. After he files the complaint, though, you file against him in court, and you file a restraining order because you feel he is harassing you by taking pictures all the time of your place and your people.
No, what made me actually file for a restraining order, the fence that I put up is only like not even half of the yard. So it was still a lot still open. And so the owner said, well, we'll put trees up and that'll make some privacy there. So the guys came out to put the trees down, and he came out with a pole, and he told the guys that they can't put no trees on the property that I'm on. You can't put no trees right here. And he was being very hostile with his pole.
What was his premise, that that was his property where they're putting the trees?
No, his promise was that once the trees grow up, he would have to deal with it on his side. That was his problem. Okay.
All right. So what happened? Were the trees planted?
No. After that happened, the guys that was planting the trees called the owner, and he told them that the man was harassing him with the pole and everything. So he said, no, we're going to put wood from that part.
And so was wood put up?
Yeah, for a little part, a little bit more.
Okay. Who paid for that wood?
The owner.
But the owner didn't pay for the privacy fence that you put up?
No.
All right. So you asked the owner for permission, you put up a privacy fence. How's it gone since then?
Oh, after that, the fence was messed up. It was like coming down or something, so I called the company, and they came out and they said that it looks like it had been tampered on the other side of on his side of the fence, and they had to reconstruct it. And they said they did that as a courtesy because it looked like someone had actually damaged the fence.
Here's you taking a picture of him.
Yes, with the pole.
Okay, what's happening there when you're taking a picture of him?
That's with the guys trying to plant the trees.
Oh, is that the pole you were referring to?
Yes, the metal pole he had.
And what is he saying in that picture?
That we cannot put no trees right here. To stop doing what we're doing, we cannot put no trees.
Of course you can put trees.
Now, that's him on the tractor kicking up dirt. The kids was in the what's name. He don't have no grass. He just kicking up the dirt for no reason.
This is a fence you put in?
Yes.
So there's his fence and then your fence right next. Okay.
Yes.
And since this fence has been put in, has it been better? Because you don't see him?
I still see him. He would get on that boat. If there's a boat right there, he would get on that boat right there and take pictures over in the yard.
What's he taking pictures of?
Kids in the yard, me.
Is it because you two don't get along and he's filing complaints against you with the city, or is it because you think he's a sexual predator? I'm trying to understand.
I've been trying to understand that too, because that's him after the fence was put up, actually by the fence. doing something by the fence, and that's on closer to my side.
When you say he's in front of the fence, is he on his property or your property?
Right there looks like he's on my property where the fence is.
What's going on, Mr. Hadley? Why do you two not get along? What's the deal?
Alrighty, Your Honor. It's nice to meet you. Everything she says and everything I went through with the restraining order, I categorically deny. Okay? I have evidence.
Were you taking pictures of her grandchildren?
No, absolutely not.
So when you move in there, were the two of you getting along?
Yes. I have a card from her because she asked me over to her house one time to do some, her sink or something was stopped up. So she invited me over, and I graciously came over, and then she felt so appreciative about it that she sent me a card appreciating.
Saying thank you. Okay,
thank you.
All right, so at the beginning, everything's fine. When does it go sour, do you think?
It's because I was trying to help her with her sewer issue because I felt maybe the reason why it wasn't getting done was because it's so expensive, and so because I own a tractor, and so I wrote her up an invoice that she could give to the owner, and I would help them fix it.
You have the know-how to help them fix it?
Yeah.
So it's a plumbing issue?
Plumbing issue, sewage, and they had raw sewage out on the ground. At first,
how did it affect you? Because I presume you could smell it.
I'm a very allergic person, and I had an accident 3 years prior where I got hit in the head on a tractor, and I got knocked off the tractor, and I went into the emergency and got taken care of for that. And they give me some dye, to go throughout my body. But like a year later, not even a year later, I contracted cancer.
Okay.
And I had a 3.5-inch tumor removed under my armpit. For the last 3 years, I've been deathly sick the whole time she's saying this is going on.
Okay, can I ask you this? You can smell the sewage issue.
Every day.
Right.
And I've given you pictures to where you can see the cesspool that I'm dealing with. Okay, and right outside my kitchen window for 2 years solid.
Is this a picture of the sewage issue we're talking about?
And that's 2 feet deep.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, now, I love my neighbors. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and I do my best to get along with everybody. And I have no issues with her children other than the fact that they were constantly throwing things at our dogs. Kids can be kids, And I've given you a video. That video there is one of her grandchildren acting all gangster in front of my house right after the restraining order. So they have tried to use that football to knock my camera out. And then they go out in the street, and you can see her grandson giving me the gangster sign like, I'm going down. And this is like right after the
restraining order?
Restraining order.
Now, tell me about the restraining order, Ms. Russell. You went to court and asked for a restraining order based on the fact that?
Based on the fact that he had been harassing me and my children, and they were scared to come outside. They were scared to play in the yard. They'll get wet, or he would take photos. One incident, he literally called my dog in his yard where that opening is. My dog went over there. My granddaughter tried to call him back, Chloe back, and he was yelling at my granddaughter saying, leave him alone, leave her alone, I'm playing with her. And we had that incident. Then when he said something about calling the police because we had guns over there, that was a problem. And that was all around the same time with the pole incident with the workers in the backyard. And I just said, I've had enough. And then my daughter also told me. So you went
to court and there was a full-blown hearing, right?
Yes.
Your Honor, I never threatened anybody with a pole. I never told her once I had any guns, okay? And like when she's talking with the dog, it's like, we love her dog. My wife loves her dog. She's got a wonderful little dog called Chloe. I never prevented them from coming and getting their dog, okay? The fact of the matter is I never called animal control on her was because of all her cats. And she came to me on my side of the property, and she says, Charles, she says, please don't call animal control because Chloe does not have any license. And I sympathize with her because it's a really, it's an awesome dog, okay?
So she files a restraining order against you and there's a hearing, right? And what happens?
Well, Your Honor, I've been dealing with cancer. First off, I'm being dragged into court at 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm sick with cancer treatment. Okay, so I'm not happy. Okay, and the fact of the matter that I have showed extraordinarily amount of resolve in not reporting her for animal control and everything else. And I want to be a good neighbor. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, okay? And we do our best to get along with our neighbors, okay? And the fact that she's taken me into court for a restraining order for defamation of my character, for saying and trying to paint me out like some sort of pervert, taking pictures of her kids, okay? They're fat, they're lethargic. I would never, even if
I don't even know what that means, because it sounds like you're saying that if they were slim and active, you would take pictures of them.
But I mean, I'm just saying, I have no desire, okay? I'm happily married, you know, and I have a family of my own. I have no desire.
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie, and one thing I've learned is that you buy a house, but you make it a home. Because with every fix, update, and renovation, it becomes a little more your own. So you need all your jobs done well. For nearly 30 years, Angie has helped millions of homeowners hire skilled pros for the projects that matter. From plumbing to electrical, roof repair to deck upgrades. So leave it to the pros who will get your jobs done well. Hire high-quality certified pros at Angie.com.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is,
"Thank you for calling. Please listen to your list of 46 possible service options."
Which is why when you choose USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable. 24/7 online service for claims, access to roadside assistance, and more. All at the touch of a button. Start getting the service you deserve. Get a quote today. Ability to receive a quote depends on membership eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
But the fact of the matter is that the harassment is coming from her side, but because I reported her to county over the sewage, I resisted.
When did you report her to the county over the sewage? When was it?
It was in January of this year.
And then when does she seek a restraining order against you?
It was March, I think.
So it was after you made the report to the city?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now, well, what happens in court? The restraining order is actually granted.
What happened, I know, because reason it gets granted, I can't get along with the judge. She won't let me speak. She won't let me speak. Okay? And so I'm pissed off at her, okay, and she grants her everything she wants.
Hold on. In June of 2022, the plaintiff took me to court for a restraining order, but the court was filled with liberal nut jobs who took her side and wouldn't even let me speak. There was no basis to give the plaintiff a restraining order against me. All right. In any event, you're here today because you feel that he should have to pay you $5,000. Why?
Because of all the harassment.
And but you decided to put up a $10,000 fence?
I did.
Right.
For safety, I also put cameras.
No, but that's fine. And you're free and American. You can do whatever the heck you want. The issue is you've come to court to tell me, Judge, he has to pay half.
I believe it would be fair for him to pay half. Out of 20 years I lived in this neighborhood and it was open. I didn't have no cameras, I didn't have anything until this man started harassing. My grandkids don't want to come out and play. They
looked fine in the video. It doesn't look like they're cowering under a blanket or anything.
If you get yelled at, if you're getting yelled at and you're getting wet by water or either dust from him kicking up the tractor. I have a statement here of the fence company that said they had to come back out here and repair the fence as a courtesy because he did.
You have no evidence that he did that. You know that you have no evidence. But your lawsuit isn't for that. Your lawsuit is for $5,000 because you think he should have to pay half. So what happens is then I have to analyze, is there some legal obligation on his part to pay for half of a fence that's completely on your property, that you completely hired somebody to do, and that you decided you wanted up? I hear what you're saying. Well, but I wouldn't have had to do that if he wasn't annoying and I didn't hate him. But, you know, or he was taking pictures of my property and my whatever it is that you're saying. I hear what you're saying. But I can't, in a court of law, say you have to pay for half of the fence unless there is something that requires him to pay for half of the fence. Like it's on the property line and you live in a jurisdiction where the town says each of you are responsible for maintaining the fence. And then that would only be if it was maintaining a fence, not creating a fence. So there is no law, there is no legal obligation on his part to pay for any part of this fence. And so you may feel that he is morally required to, because, you know, look at this, I had to get a restraining order, and you ended up getting the restraining order. But your remedy when someone is acting weird, in your opinion, or illegally in your opinion, or harassing you in your opinion, is to do exactly what you did, which is to get a restraining order. That's your remedy. But if you choose to do something else, such as, you know, put up a $10,000 fence, that's on you. It's not on him. And there is no legal obligation on his part to help you pay for that. So my verdict in this case is for the defendant.
Thank you.
So the defendant prevails in this case of a war between neighbors, and he does not have to pay half the cost of her fence. He does not owe her $5,000. Let me ask you how you feel about the judge's decision.
I don't feel it's fair. I think it should be a cost to harassing people for no reason.
Well, you're entitled to your decision, but according to the judge, it just is not the case.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the defendant is Mr. Hadley, and he is on his way out of the courtroom. Mr. Hadley, I know you're elated. Obviously, you won the case. What are your thoughts right now?
Well, I just want to say I want to categorically reject any and everything she said, because I have been a good neighbor and I have exercised a lot of resistance in suing her myself. And
well, let me ask you, since she sued you and lost, do you think this is going to ease up a little bit, the problems between the two of you?
I doubt it on her side, because the harassment is coming from her and her family, not me.
Well, all we can say is good luck to you. I hope you can find some peace in your neighborhood. That's the one thing everybody wants. Good luck to you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
So it's kind of interesting, Doug. So I guess the plaintiff's theory is that because the defendant was taking all these pictures, that fence that was erected the cost should be split. That's just not the case. Here's the reality. Pictures now are just a form of everyday life. It's not really generally considered intrusive. Everybody's got a ring bell, a cell phone, whatever, where, pictures abound. So that does not justify splitting the cost of anything.
Is it hearsay when someone testifies about what happened as opposed to what was said? As in the case where the wedding reception was ruined because the food was lousy and served late?
No. You can always testify about what you observed, the things that were happening, your own experiences, what the food tasted like, and the like in a courtroom. In small claims court, the hearsay rule is often more relaxed.
Because lawyers
for
aren't
both
there.
sides. There's no lawyers there, and the judge will be able to separate the stuff that he or she shouldn't really consider versus the stuff that he or she should consider. So,
or so the judge says.
Or so they say, right? It's funny, the hearsay rule has 24 exceptions.
Yeah, there's lots of exceptions
to the hearsay rule. To it. Generally speaking, it's when you have an out-of-court statement by someone that you're going to repeat in the courtroom to prove the truth of that statement. That's
to prove the truth of what is asserted in the statement.
Right, but you don't have to worry about it too much in small claims. And the reality is, in any courtroom, it tends to turn out that the hearsay rule is whatever the judge says it is.
This is the plaintiff, William Amir Stevens. He says he purchased a used washing machine which was guaranteed to work from the defendant. And the thing worked twice, with only socks and underwear. When he put a full load in, the machine didn't work. He was out and out lied to and wants all of his $400 returned. So he's suing. This is the defendant, Misty. She says the guy had her machine in his house and used it for a while. And she has no idea what he did to the thing because it worked just fine when she sold it to him. The guy could have mishandled or abused the thing, or a part went out on it or something. Bottom line, that's not her responsibility, and she owes nothing. She's accused of being all wet.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff bought a washing machine from the defendant and says when it got home, the thing didn't work. But the defendant says the washer worked fine for him back in her house, and she has no idea what he did to break it once he got it home. It's the case of one vicious cycle.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Mr. Stevens, you're suing Ms. Misty for $400 that you want returned to you, that you paid her for a washing machine, which according to you doesn't work. Tell me what happened.
Yes, Your Honor. So I found her ad on Facebook Marketplace, and she had it advertised as a 3-year-old washer that should work as good as new. I needed a washer at the time, so I went ahead and I contacted her. She responded to me and wanted to know if I wanted to come and pick it up or if for a small fee she could deliver it to me. At the time, I didn't have my car, so I said, yeah, you can just come and deliver it. And I asked if $25 on top of the $375 price would be okay for that. She said yes. Her and her husband then brought the washer over to my house. I hooked it up. I paid them, and they left.
When you say you hooked it up, what do you mean?
I plugged in the washer to the outlets and made sure I plugged in all the right hookups and everything like that.
Right. With them there?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So how did you, before you hand them the money, when they deliver it, how do you test it to make sure it works?
I didn't test it at that moment. I was waiting for my maintenance guy to come and help me set it up. So that's what happened there.
All right. Did they actually offer to help you set it up?
No, they asked to help me get it in the house.
Okay. And according to you, Ms. Misty, did you guys offer to set it up?
Yes, Your Honor, we did. At first, I offered him to come over to the house and have it see in action before he went through the trouble of, disconnecting it and hauling it over there. He says he trusts us. We wheel it over. We offer him 2 times to actually get it inside his house and hook it up. But he said 2 times that his maintenance guy was already on his way over to swap it out. So we gave him the opportunity to, 1, see it at our house, and then 2, have it hooked up at his house.
So did he test it at all before he paid you? Did he plug it in to hear if it would nothing? Just nothing. Okay.
No.
All right. So then what happens, Mr. Stevens? Tell me what happens when your handyman comes and he installs it and says, okay, everything's great, right?
He hooks it up. He helps me hook it up. And
I presume he tested it to make sure he hooked it up right.
Yes, ma'am.
And everything was fine.
He tested it.
Okay.
He did the standard check, which usually happens with appliance sales like that. And he just made sure the water was draining okay and drained out.
All right. So then you do the wash, and what happens when you first use it?
So I got ready to use the wash, and it didn't work at all. The device turned on. It drained. It poured water into the mechanism, but it didn't do anything after that. It just sat there for probably 2 hours. So at that point, I messaged the defendant, and I was like, hey, this thing isn't even running a proper cycle. It's not doing anything. At that point, the defendant then told me, you might have to do a diagnostic check on it. I said, okay. I ran the diagnostic check, and the washer then did correctly work. It did 1 to 2 cycles. I was able to get a couple of my clothes washed with it.
Wait, when you say it did 1 to 2 cycles and you could get a couple of your clothes washed with it, I presume that you did a full load.
I did a small load just to make sure that everything was working okay. Okay,
and was it working okay?
It worked okay with the small load.
Okay, and then what happens?
The next time I used it was maybe 2 days later. And when I went to use it, I just put in some towels and I went to do the cycle. It ran everything until the spin cycle. Then it just would not spin it at all. So it would fill it up with water, it would agitate, and it would never go to the spin cycle. So I then messaged out to her again. I said, hey, it worked, but now it's not working at all. It's the same problem, or not the same problem, but it's still not washing my clothes. And she didn't respond to me for quite some time. I then sent her some videos of my towels that weren't getting washed at all. And I showed her where I would tell it to do the spin cycle, skip everything else, just do the spin cycle. And it wouldn't even do the spin cycle. You can see I'll stick my hand in there to grab the towels and I'm squeezing it and water is 100% just drenched into that towel and pouring over my hand like a waterfall back into the washing unit.
So what happens then? Do you contact her again?
I contacted her again, and I asked her, I was like, let's be decent about this. Clearly this isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. And at first she didn't respond. Then she responded. I will say, like, sometimes emotions and stuff in a text message may not come across the way they should.
That's right. That's so right. It is so much better, as I tell my children all the time, for human beings to talk to each other, because if you just do it by text, you might read the text with the wrong intonation and get angry or offended or feel like the person is abusing you. Whereas if you talk to each other and you see their facial expressions and you hear the angst in their voice, you might feel empathy, right? Yeah. So what happens? When you say that, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. So she responds, and it was a pretty long message, pretty much, saying that it was just user error and all these things like that. And so I, at the time, because I was frustrated with the washer not working, I took that as, I was like, well, all I did was just put some towels in here. Like, are you trying to insinuate that a machine that's quite literally, you put clothes in it, you hit the button, it does its thing, you're telling me I didn't do that correctly? She also mentioned in one of those messages that I should be using the correct soap products, which all the soap products I use Tide. And it even says, has a little HE symbol on it, which is what she was telling me I needed to be using something like that. So I was doing that. I wasn't using anything strange. I wasn't overfilling it. Like I said, Your Honor, those were like 2 or 3 towels that were in there. So I've never had a washer that couldn't, run a cycle and spin out 3 towels.
Let me hear from you, Ms. Misty.
Yes, Your Honor. So most of what Mr. Stevens said was true. Have a little bit more detail to provide. So that evening of purchase, he sends me a message asking where the dispenser unit was, said he'd been trying to run a load for 2 hours and couldn't get it to work, and said immediately he'd like to return it. I replied saying that he might want to press and hold the main button to reset it, and to let me know how that went. I didn't hear from him for a few days. I figured that was a trick, wouldn't be hearing from him again. On 3/8 around midnight, he sends a message that it worked until today, only worked for maybe 2 to 3 small loads. He stated he had to go to the laundromat. It didn't spin the towels dry. Some of his towels were ruined. He has to go buy new ones, and threatened to get the law involved if I don't return his money. The next day at 11:52, he stated that, again, it worked for 2 to 3 small loads. Stated, again, that most of his clothes and towels are pretty much ruined, and if he did not receive a response today, he'd be seeking legal action. At 8:30 p.m., he stated that he's given me ample time to respond. He's already filed in the small claims court. I looked at the small claims timestamp of the paperwork, and it showed that he filed the case at 12:53. So from his 11:52 to 12:53 message, he gave me 1 hour to respond today. Yes, and I feel bad, and you're right. There's a lot of nuance in writing. I saw the video. The video I saw was the 1 towel left wet, and when he mentioned the lengthy message, I did try to troubleshoot. There's a lot of variables involved. I stated that he said it worked for 2 to 3 small loads, and I asked what kind of loads they were, if they were different than what he was showing in his video. Stated that he might want to try the medium to large loader, not washing, towels, jeans, or heavy stuff on a small loader at the same time. Stated that washers can be overloaded, also underloaded, which can affect the spin cycle. Suggested, double check that it's level. Sent him a link for the installation guide as well as the use guide.
And then told him that he might want to start with these things before accusing you of lying.
Correct.
And telling you that you are passing off a bad product and threatening with the law and small claims case. When we delivered it, you expected us to drop it off in your carport. We were expecting to bring it inside and get it hooked up for you. We brought it inside but couldn't hook it up because you had the other one in its place and said your maintenance guy would be coming over to set it up for you. I also offered for you to come to my house to see it in action before we brought it over to you. When you first tried to run a load, you automatically assumed it didn't work and immediately wanted a refund. Then somehow you got it to work, which I am assuming was through the reset button. This is a modern machine, basically a computer that washes clothes. So things have to be just right for it to perform correctly. So please consider it could be user error. And then you file the lawsuit.
Correct. And I also posted, you see there, that there's an image of a...
How much does this thing cost new?
Almost $800.
How long before that had you bought it?
Me, I had it maybe a year and a half or so. I was the second owner of it, but we used it and we had an extra set that was gifted to us, so we had a washer and dryer set that was gifted to us.
And then you say in your message to her, Mr. Stevens, nowhere did you state it is all sales final or take it as is.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
There was nowhere on the ad where she said anything like that. But I would like to add one thing, if I may.
Yeah.
So she stated that I immediately filed. That's not true at all. I did give her at least 2 days to respond to me, in which she did not respond. So it doesn't take 2 days to respond back to a message. So I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and do this.
What day did you file the lawsuit? You can file the lawsuit whenever you want. It doesn't matter, but I'm just curious since you're bringing it up as a response.
I want to say it was...
Go ahead.
Off the top of my head, I want to say it was the 11th.
And what day did she give you the response?
I didn't get a response from her until that same day. The same day that I filed was the same day I got a response from her.
I know. And she responded at 10:53 that day, and you filed at what time? Right after that.
Oh, no, I had filed that same day earlier, probably around 9 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, I see what you're saying. And when had you written to her? 2 days before her response?
I had pretty much typed that into her at least 24 hours. I know for a fact on that.
Yeah, I think it was slightly less than 24 hours. But it really, look, all that's academic. I have one issue in front of me. And the issue in front of me is, did she breach the terms of the contract of your sale? You feel that because it doesn't work or doesn't work well or doesn't work after 2 workings, that means she breached. And I have to tell you, like, when I look at this, my first gut, as if I weren't a lawyer and a judge, my first gut would be, hey, you know, this thing didn't work after a couple of, I didn't want to buy something that didn't work. I want to buy something that did work. But here's the rub. Whenever you buy something that is used, whether they list it or not as, with the magical words as is, or all sales final, whether they mention it or not, by operation of law and by default, it is final and it is as is. Which means that when you're buying a used item, you have to test it out to make sure it's to your satisfaction. And you should always go to the place, make the time to go to the place and test it out there and see that it works before you invest $300 and something. But you did something like, instead of going to BrandsMart and paying $800 or $900 for this item, you bought it used in the used market. So you got the advantage of that, but you don't want the disadvantage. The advantage is you can get some really good deals. The disadvantage is it's buyer beware. And that's what it is in this case. So I feel bad that it doesn't work for you, but I'm hoping that you avail yourself of all of the things she mentioned in that really long email or text, message on Facebook Marketplace. But it's going to be up to you to get this repaired, because when you buy it, it is as is, whether she says it or not. Okay? So I'm sorry, but my ruling in this case is in favor of the defendant. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the plaintiff fails to win this lawsuit. The defendant prevails, and the plaintiff is stuck with a washing machine that doesn't work for him. He doesn't get $400 back. I feel sorry for you, Mr. Stevens, but do you understand what the judge said? It's buyer beware, and that's what you do.
Of course I understand what the judge said. I've been a long time watching fan of this show anyway, so I respect the judge and what she had to say.
All right, Misty, are you upset that he came back at you like this and that you had I gather you didn't expect that to happen. Am I right?
I certainly did not, Doug. I feel bad that it was unfortunate timing. I mean, he said, I think 4 times in writing, including his small claims paperwork, that it worked up to including 3 times. So if it truly didn't work after the 3rd time, then, I think that's just unfortunate timing. Had it never worked from the get-go, he would have promptly gotten his money back. So I feel bad for the unfortunate timing of it all, but I'm glad the judge decided, and it's over with.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Right, very good. You're very welcome. Thank you, ma'am. And that'll do it for this case. Harvey, what are your thoughts?
Okay, Doug, this is pretty common. The washing machine was bought as is, which means the only way to undo the deal is to prove some kind of fraud, a material misrepresentation. If the defendant knew the washer was broken and lied about it, it wasn't the case here, the plaintiff loses.
My bike has been stolen from my shed twice in the last 3 months. My friend says he can rig a shotgun to go off at someone's legs if they open the door. Can I do it? Oy.
No, you cannot do it. This has been tried a number of times. People put these spring-loaded weapons. There's a very famous case out of Iowa from about 50 years ago involving some homeowners who had a farmhouse that was boarded up and abandoned. They owned it, and they put no trespassing signs all around it. And they had some antiques inside that they just left inside of it. People kept breaking in. They had constant burglaries and break-ins. So one of them took a 20-gauge shotgun and loaded it up with a spring-activated device so that if the door opened, it would shoot the person coming in. And his wife talked him into keeping it down low, so it would shoot them in the legs and not kill them. Well, one of the burglars who had been there before comes back, opens the door, it shoots him in the leg, almost blows his leg off. He spends 40 days in the hospital. He's very seriously injured. And he sues the homeowners. He wins a judgment for punitive damages and compensatory damages that was substantial. So it could ruin you financially, it could kill somebody, and
it might give you a lot of satisfaction,
right?
But your satisfaction will be short-lived.
It will be short-lived, and you can never use deadly force in defense of just some personal property.
It's just wrong. I mean, it's wrong.
It's morally wrong.
It's morally wrong. I know you're frustrated. You don't want any more thefts.
Right.
But
now maybe a beehive in there or something.
I know a good apiarist.
Something like that. You know, I notice nobody ever goes near beehives. If you could you could have a friend of mine down in Miami has honeybees and keeps them in his yard, and I always stay away from that part of the yard. So, you know, unless you want to get stung.